Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Photographic Memory Podcast. I'm excited to welcome the program Dr. Shannon Panzo. Dr. Shannon, what's going on? How are you?
Oh, things are happening here as usual, and I'm just having a great day. It's a good day to be here talking with you, Neil.
Absolutely. It's always fun to talk to you and learn so much about photographic memory, brain management, and mentoring, all expertise levels that you have. And you can go to zuxpro.com now to find out more about it. So let's kind of jump right into something that's dear to my heart, and it's sports. Photographic memory helps you study well, right? It helps you it helps you read so you don't have to read. You understand so much more information that you're able to, understand the world around you in so many ways and have more free time. And if you're in an EMS or certain fire or certain type of emergency thing or try to get blown up, you can recover and not be blown up because of photographic memory and mental photography. But when it comes to sports, now that's where my avenue goes. Looking back in my days, I played 1 year high school football, but I played I played high school basketball and college basketball, and I'm a professional wrestler. So you might miss the point of why wrestling, but we'll talk amateur wrestling. But I'll explain how the photographic memory could have helped me in professional wrestling because it has a lot to do with performance, and I even could go into acting. But let's jump right into the first thing, which is a sport dear to my heart that I played most of my life. Never thought that I would never have any love for any sport but basketball, and I did because of being 6'10". You're just forced to play basketball, and then it becomes your love till pro wrestling became my love. But when we talk about basketball, how do you use photographic memory and mental photography to become better in basketball?
Okay, well, we're going to have some fun today because most people don't actually see the obvious connection here. Because you have to study and we're talking about the photographic memory and having study and what that does, just like what you were saying earlier. But let's say you want to become really, really good and preferably go to a professional level of basketball. Well, yes, the basic understanding is still you have yourself, you have basketball, and you have a hoop, and you have a spatial relationship between all three of those things. And yes, there's a lot of things that happen on the court at the same time. But at the same time, you also have other players that you have to interact with, especially your own team. Wouldn't it be handy if you automatically knew where each one of those players were without you actually having to look where that player was? So, one of the obvious things here that I see with photographic memory tuning up your brain and ZoxPro giving you an awareness and perception of the world around you, even on a very localized scale, and that's your peripheral vision, then what happens is you automatically know what players are around you moving in whatever direction. It just tunes you completely up for these types of things. So you know when to pass the ball, who to pass it to in order to get you to where you need to be. Now, yes, you have another team interacting with you, and you can even anticipate those things as well. This is not just knowing your own team, but it's actually that spatial relationship. That spatial relationship is born in the brain, and you have to tune up your brain. Now, let's say that let's say you have a legendary hero basketball player that you want to emulate. Well, that legendary hero probably has an autobiography and basically telling you the way that it feels, the way that it works. Well, whenever you mentally photograph that information, you also get that hero on
Right.
a quantum level. So this is what enables you to start adding into your performance because it becomes automatic. You not only emulate the person on a conscious level, you start to adapt yourself to their methods because their methods, even though are not specifically talked about in their book, it's coming across in their person. in
Right.
their frequency, their vibration. That's the quantum level information that gives you superior ability. It's the one thing that other people just don't get.
Right.
So it
Yeah.
quickly makes you expert at basketball.
Yeah. So that's very interesting because you would never think that. But again, I think it would look back at looking at basketball books and great coaches that teach technique, because technique's such an important thing in basketball, if you can remember that. But I think also you talked about, so it's you can really understand the game of the, because basketball is not just, you have skill, you could shoot the ball, you could dunk the ball. It has a lot to do with technique. It has a lot to do with strategy. It has a lot to do with understanding defenses, understanding offenses, and being able to continue to watch film and understand the specific nuances of basketball. Like where that defender is going to be, or what anticipate what that defender is going to do, or technique in the post, or technique everywhere. So a coach could even dominate even more with the photographic memory, right? Mental photography, right? Because
Oh,
a coach,
absolutely.
because a coach will be able to
Oh,
strategically lead them in the right direction and read from the greatest coaches of all time.
right. Now, also the players, whenever they have this superior understanding of the game and have all this extra equipment going on, it's much easier to become relaxed and get into the zone. The zone is this, they make it sound like it's this magic land where only a few people ever go. No, you just have to have an understanding of what your objective is, and being relaxed with that and confident with that. And it's actually quite easy to get into the zone at that point. But you have to have what it takes to get there. You have to build up your information, not only on a conscious level but on a subconscious level, where you have the frequency and the information and the awareness, and all the rest of the puzzle fits together, and suddenly you're in the zone. And then you too can talk about, gee, this game was so great for me because I was in the zone.
All right. So let's jump. Football has the same thing with basketball. So I think wrestling would be another great one, because we'll talk amateur wrestling, we'll talk professional wrestling. Go amateur wrestling first.
Okay, amateur wrestling. Anticipating what your opponent is going to do. It's one on one, but if you can anticipate what your opponent is going to do, and this also, whenever your opponent is in physical contact, you can actually tap into that person's energy, and even a nuance of, there's always a nuance before there's a move. Now, the nuance, you have to be able to interpolate that in order to counter that move. And so that's a way to do that. Again, everything comes from the brain first. And if you're looking at going and becoming superior in a martial arts or wrestling or judo, there are always excellent books by masters, and those masters have
Exactly.
taken a very long amount of time to really get to really get the positionings and all the rest of the movements exacting in those books. And again, whenever you photograph those books, you get the quantum information. That quantum information goes directly to your motor skills, and you start enhancing your performance off the scale,
Okay. Let's
simply
talk.
by that.
Let's talk professional wrestling, which has a lot to do with acrobatics. It has a lot to do with falling, theatrical, and also technique, and uh, really making it realistic looking for the fans.
Well, it isn't without its risk. You're the basically you're a combination of professional stuntman and actor all at the same time. And by being that, that's when you don't get hurt. And it's whenever you make mistakes, that's when you do get hurt.
You do get hurt. Yeah.
Well, you get a little bit more than just hurt usually. But the point is again, it comes down to the technique, gaining the level of the technique. You're going to find that whenever you enter that level of sport, that you're gonna have instructors, and if you those instructors are there to basically not only show you the moves, but how to use those moves safely. And if you have certain techniques of and this is one of those things where you'll find that there are some people that are just a little bit thick about this. They don't want to
Exactly.
really listen
Right.
carefully as to what is going on, because those are the things that save them a lot of pain and grief later on.
Exactly.
So they bypass that. And the same thing is true with weightlifting. A lot of weightlifters go out there and they weightlift and weightlift and weightlift until they hurt themselves
Right.
because they haven't done the basic principles of
Yeah,
building
there's
up.
such good exercises that you can learn from the
Right,
experts if you are able to mentally photograph them versus
right,
having to practice.
right. So muscles operate in a certain way, joints operate in a certain way. When you exceed the operational characteristics of those things, and by the way, we're talking again about the motor skills. When you exceed the what those things can do, that's when you end up hurting yourself. And it can be overextension or a tendon that doesn't want to agree with you. Uh, I'm sure that
So
you've experienced it
exactly.
all.
So if you're an athlete right now, we talked about those sports. There's really no relationship changes in any of the other sports. They all have to do with technique. They all have to do with balance. They all have to do with strategy. But if you're an athlete and you really want to get the mental edge, which everyone asks talks about the mental edge in sports, go to zuxpro.com right now, right?
Absolutely. ZoxPro is a great way for you to get your mental edge. And if you want to have those days in the zone more frequently, this is how to do it.
Especially if you are stuck on three throw shooting, like Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille should have contacted you when he was shooting 45% from the field, just from the free throw line, when he could, anywhere else, his field goal percentage was 65 or 70%. But when it came to free throws, 49%, all mental. And it's all mental. And he could have figured it out by reading Rick Barry's book or some other person's book, mentally photographing them. So, sports athletes still can benefit very much from this. So, what another great photographic memory podcast. Appreciate it, Dr. Shannon. We will talk again next time.
All great here. And just, keep the spirit, keep it going.
We will.
Do whatever you got to do.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, that was the Photographic Memory Podcast.